Hello and welcome. My name is Shira Cohen, and I'm the host of this podcast and the author of a book called Reclaiming Our Wellbeing. I'm a yoga teacher, yoga therapist, Ayurvedic wellness educator, and emotional coach. So this is a space of sharing stories that uplift, encourage, and transform. So enjoy. So hello everyone. Today we are joined by Amanda Foo-Ryland, and she is an international speaker, an author, and she has her own business, which she's going to tell us all about. And I'm just really happy to talk to this amazing woman. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Shira. I'm really happy to be here and spend some time with you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We can have a lovely journey together.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I haven't been doing a lot of interviews the last few months. So tell us about your life story in short, and how you got to where you are. And Amanda was just telling me she's spinning a lot of plates at the same time at the moment, so I'd love to hear how that happened.
Well, I started life really in terms of I grew up in Halifax, one of three children. I'm the eldest. Lovely family upbringing, fantastic parents. Sadly, Dad's not with us. Mum just turned 80, so we just took her to Canada last month for her 80th, and she's incredible. Still loves to sing karaoke and dance and play games. I want to be like her when I'm 80. She's amazing.
Yeah.
So I had a great childhood and started my career really working with Estee Lauder, selling lipstick and makeup on the counter in Rackham's Bradford in Yorkshire. But very quickly got promoted and became a training executive with the Lauder Corporation, and had 16 years working with them. An amazing company. I learned so much. At the end of my career, my role was the training director for Clinique for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So that was a lot of traveling, a lot of responsibility. And yet the company looked after us really, really well. But we used to have a saying, if you cut me in the middle, I'm like a stick of rock, and it'll say Estee Lauder in the middle. It was a little bit like that. It was all consuming. And in fact, when I reflect now, a lot of my friends I've got in my life now at 56 years of age, I met when I started with Lauder at 19 years of age. So it really was a family. They were a great organization to work with, but I learned a lot. And because I was in training and education, it was all about people. It was not, of course, it was about the products because it's about selling, but for me, it wasn't. For me, it was about the people, and how do we offer really good service to people? How do we understand how we can improve ourselves? And then one day I found myself in Portugal with my Estee Lauder friends, taking some time out, and we were all having 5 girls on our annual week away. And my friend Gillian Rosen threw this book across the pool. She literally threw it across the pool and said, "You might want to read this. I think you'll find it interesting." And it was a book on neuro-linguistic programming. And I'd heard about it. It got a bit of a bad rap, really. People were sort of dissing it. And so I was curious to find out more about it. And I found the book really interesting. I forget the name of the book now. And so I started to dive into that. And I decided in 2005 to start my training in neuro-linguistic programming, and still am learning. I'm now a trainer of NLP, timeline therapy, and clinical hypnotherapy. So I'm aligned with the American boards. But essentially what I started to do was use these tools with clients, on a very regular basis, and train people how to learn to help others using these really simple tools. But I think the main difference is because I had a lot of practical application, I was able to simplify it and make it much, much easier. So now, in many respects, I don't refer to it as neuro-linguistic programming anymore. I refer to it as neural coding, because essentially that's what it is. So there I am helping clients, but life's pretty cruisy. I was married to a very tall basketball player. My first marriage lasted 5 years. We sadly got divorced just because, life changed and things moved, and it was amicable. We're still in contact today. And then I met my second husband, Keith, who I was with for 19 years, who was my absolute soulmate and very supportive of what I was choosing to do with my life, which was to help others. And together we founded Your Life Live It, which is the company that I now have. So he helped me. When I say together we founded it, he just helped me, really. He was a great sounding board, a good businessman. Yeah. A really good businessman, so helped me and became so fascinated. He decided to train as well in that. Yeah, so he could. Yeah, it was really cool. Like, he came and did the full. Then it was 9 days, and read all he needed to do and did the exam at the end and passed with flying colours. And so he could really understand it. And then, life's great. I raise a lot of money for charity. So I run across Portugal, which is 7 marathons in 7 days.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, which is a bit crazy. That all happened because Keith would follow me around the world to run these marathons. So we've been to London. We live in Portugal. We've been to London. We'd gone to Madrid to run the Madrid marathon, and then I wanted to run the New York marathon. And he was there like the cheerleader all the way. But a lot of hard work for him, because he's having to meet tries to meet me at like mile 8, then mile 14, and then mile 22, and then get to the finishing line, before I get to 26. And so for him to navigate a city he doesn't know on public transport, because that's the only thing you can do, because the roads are all closed, cabs won't take you anywhere. It was hard work. So we're on the plane coming back from New York, and he said, why can't you just run a marathon in Portugal? Like, why do we have to travel? And I said, because they don't really do them, love. They don't do them for like Joe Public like me. You've got to be an elite athlete. He said, well, why don't you just run across the bloody country then?
Oh, wow.
I said, that's a really good idea. He was joking. I was like, that's a really good idea. I wonder how far it is. And he was like, oh no.
What have I said?
What have I said? It was a year-long project, and in the end, we ended up raising $65,000 for charity, which was amazing. And so that started me on this whole thing of, we can do really big events and get a lot of money raised for charity. So I then find myself cycling from Land's End to John O'Groats, which is the length of the UK, and climbing the National Three Peaks. Again, that was me joking. I was just like, oh, why don't we do the National Three Peaks as well? And my friend said,
you have lots of energy on tap constantly, obviously.
It was crazy. But the interesting thing about that, Shira, is coming off that long cycle ride and having raised more money and, this kind of fit lifestyle and life's good. And my first curveball came, and that was, the boys were complaining about the kidneys being really sore because we drunk a lot of water. And I was like, oh, my kidneys are fine. I cycled with 2 men on this experience. And I get back to New Zealand, and I'm having a general checkup on my health, and my blood pressure showing high. Anyway, it transpires that I had a tumour in my left kidney.
Oh, God.
And it needed to come out immediately. So within a month, the kidney had come out. And in fact, now I've got a little T-Rex dinosaur where the kidney used to live, because it's extinct. You don't need 2 kidneys. You only need 1 kidney.
Well, it's good to have 2.
So it is good to have 2 if you can have them. Yeah, for sure. But the interesting thing was that was a journey with cancer that I never ever thought I would experience.
Can I just ask, how old were you then? And had you already stopped with Estee Lauder, or that was?
Yes, I stopped with Lauder. So I was with Estee Lauder until I was around 33 years old. I then met Keith. I was with. I left Lauder because I've met Keith, and I was just working so much. We barely had time to see one another. And he said, there's only so much flying around the world I can do to try and see you.
Yeah.
So my territory was so large. So I resigned from Lauder. Then we set up Your Life Live It. And then I'm going on these experiences. And interestingly, it's my 10th year anniversary this year of that kidney coming out.
Oh, wow.
So that's a massive landmark from a medical perspective, because once you get to kind of 5 years post-cancer, they're kind of going big thumbs up. But 10 years after is a massive. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
But Keith was obviously devastated. I was devastated. But what I decided to do was look upon the experience like an adventure that I hadn't chosen to go on, but I was on it anyway. So I might as well look at it through adventurous eyes rather than fearful eyes. And when you get diagnosed with that kind of disease, what tends to happen is you get a label, which is cancer sufferer, cancer victim. And even really great friends and family, because they're worried, they just look at you differently and they talk the conversation.
Yeah.
The conversations change. So I decided to embark on it like an adventure, and it really served me well, because the morning that I went into Christchurch in New Zealand, which is where the surgery was happening, I'd never been into hospital before as well. I think it's important to add. It was a new experience for me, other than visit people, that was it. The anaesthetist came to meet me and she was like, I'll give you a little concoction to relax you. And I was like, no, because actually I've never seen an operating theatre before, and I'd love to meet the team and I'd love to see the operating theatre. And she was like,
wow, you're really enthusiastic. What star sign are you?
I'm an Aries.
You're an Aries. I'm an Aries too.
Yeah, well, you could have guessed that. You could have guessed that, right?
Yeah.
But she was like, well, that's a bit weird, Amanda, but let's do it. So it was brilliant, because I got to meet, there was going to be 8 people. They were all lovely. They were all going to listen to Freddie Mercury. I mean, I love Freddie. What's not to love about Queen? Throughout the surgery, I got to see the operating theatre, and I thought, this mindset actually is really serving me, because I don't know what's going to happen. And I looked at the word adventure, because the meaning of the word adventure is outcome unknown, and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. So let's embark on it. Really, really served me. And so, I was saying to the surgeon, I'm going to be running a marathon in 4 months' time, and I got fit for surgery. I literally lost weight and got fit, and he said, this is brilliant, because it's, you're going to heal faster. So I treated it almost like a sporting event. And I ran, literally 4 months later, I ran the Motor Tapu Marathon in New Zealand, which is a mountain marathon. You've got to carry your own stuff, through 22 rivers. And that was me drawing a line in the sand. I'm done with that now. Yeah. But if somebody had have tapped me on the shoulder on the 14th of November, 10 years ago, and said, tomorrow, Amanda, in a year's time, Keith's going to die, I'd have gone, no, you've got the wrong person.
Quickly after.
A year and a day after. So it was, it was a huge curveball. Whereas before, I used to go into my toolbox, when I was diagnosed, I went into my toolbox and looked at various ways that I could embark on this journey, and chose the adventurous mindset. When the diagnosis with Keith came, I was just angry with the universe. Yeah, I didn't want to use the toolbox. I was like, this is a load of rubbish. Like, why is this happening to me? And became a victim.
Yeah. That was really, you can't help him. You can help yourself, but you can't help him.
No. I mean, I did the best I could, of course, because I travelled the journey, but everyone's got to travel that in their own way, and his choices were his choices, and I needed to support him in whatever those were for him. So yeah, I lost him a year and a day after my kidney came out, and it's heartbreaking. Yeah, but again, kind of like picked myself up, and I was like, what is life going to be like? Now, because I was 46 when the kidney came out. I was 47 when he died. So, here I'm at 56, and I was young, then to have lost something that I've been with for so long. Yeah. And interestingly, I sort of was licking my wounds, and I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself, and not being very productive, and stopped writing, stopped working, stopped running, took up drinking more red wine, and thought, this is not healthy. Like, I know I've got a choice here. And I think what's interesting is a lot of people don't realize they've got a choice. If we come from this mentality of life's happening to me, this has been done to me, then we've become a victim, which is what I did for a while.
Yeah, but I think it's even healthy, because I'm also like you, very like, yeah, you can get over this and see everything as a challenge. But I think it's also good to go down into the dark, and let
Yeah.
yourself sink a little, because you also want to know how far you can go down, and can you then see that as a challenge to get out as well, you know? And because then you know other people can get out too, because I know some people in my family, for example, or people I work with who don't have my kind of personality and are easier inclined to be victims. And how do you guide them out if you haven't been where they are? You know what I mean? So I think it's a
Yeah.
good thing to let yourself sink, but no, it's temporary, even if temporary means 20 years for some people.
Or a lifetime for some
Yeah,
people, sadly,
yeah.
a lifetime.
Mm.
And you know, it was unusual, excuse me, but it was a good experience,
Mhm.
and it was good to kind of close off and feel what that felt like, because it was significant. And you know, a lot of your listeners will have had, you know,
Time in their
these
life.
points that I'm talking about will have touched them, either directly or you know, through a family member that, you know, it's not a spouse necessarily, but it touches so many people. And I think it's absolutely right to go into what I call the grey bubble and just make ourselves smaller and spend some time, you know, dwelling, as you call it, you know, going deep or going low. And I did that for a while, and then it was a friend of mine, who is a running friend, and she was like, "Come on, let's start running. Let me take you out for a quick trot." And I was like, "I can only do 3K. Like, I'm so unfit." So we go running, and she's running in front of me, and she literally stops in her tracks. I almost run straight into the back of her. And she's like, "I've just had this epiphany, like it's just come in front of my eyes." And she's described it like a huge canvas.
Mhm.
And the first part of it was really rich and textured, and it's colourful, and it's got lots of undulation on it. And that's from my birth till the point that Keith died.
Mhm.
And the other side of it's completely white.
Mm.
And you can put whatever you like on it. And if anyone can be the architect of their life, Amanda, it's you. You know, you can.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, Vicky, you are right. So let's get designing. So I started to design.
Mm.
What
Design
did I
your
want?
life. Yeah.
Yeah, what did I want in my life? You know, I want to go to Burning Man. That's one thing I want to do. So, you know,
Oh,
let's see.
really?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they've had a bad time this year with a
I
lot
know,
of
I
rain.
just heard from a friend
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah.
But I wanted to go, and it's been on the list for a long time. So, you know, let's make that happen. And one thing that I looked at, particularly when I was in that grey bubble, was am I a lone traveler, or am I better, you know, with a mate? And
Mhm.
I've realized that I'm always better with a mate. So, you know, I'd had a 10-year relationship with a very hot fireman, 5 years married to a very tall basketball player, and then 19 Keith, you know. So I'd had these 3 long-term relationships from being quite young,
Mm.
all with men. And so, you know, I was like, okay, well, I want to fall in love again, and I want to have a, you know, who's that soulmate that's going to be on the last run of the relay, you know. So I had 3 long relationships. Who's going to be the last one to that 100-meter, last 100 meters? And I did fall in love again. I went to Burning Man as well, but I did fall in love again, but this time with a woman.
Okay.
And you know, that to me was I was as surprised as my mum, who said, "You're not gay." She said to me, "You're not gay, love, you're grieving," which I thought was quite. It's a phase you're going through. You know, you should have got it out of your sister when you were 20. You should have kissed a girl. So yes, I fell in love with Sarah, who is now my wife. We've been married for 7 years,
Wow.
and we've got twin boys that are 4.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
yeah.
She got pregnant or you got pregnant? No.
No, but I've got one kidney, so
Oh, you
they
can't
were
have.
like, well,
Okay.
they don't advise it. They don't advise it. Not that if anyone's listening, they've got one kidney, you're not going to get pregnant and you can't carry a baby. It's just that I was also a lot older. I'm 14 years
Yeah.
older than Sarah. So it was always the plan that Sarah would be the oven, and I would just be, you know, helping with thermostats and making sure she got the right food at the right time,
The
and all
support. Yeah.
yeah, the support system.
Mothership.
Yeah, and we went and we did IVF naturally, of course, 2 women.
Mhm.
The first 3 attempts well, we did get pregnant, but it was only a chemical pregnancy, so that didn't take, unfortunately. But we did 3 transfers, none of them worked. And we were getting concerned because we were like, well, it's not an infertility problem, it's just a sperm problem. You know, that's why we went for IVF, because even though we'd had really lovely friends that offered to donate their sperm to us, we decided not to do that. We felt that it probably was going to be complex enough for anyone, without bringing that into the mix. And so we went to a clinic in Spain, in Marbella. We could drive to it back and forth. And when we got for the next harvesting, our nurse, Michelle, who was from Yorkshire, actually, that speaks Spanish like a native, she said, guess what, girl? She said, I've got you a new donor. She said, I've been down to the beach and I found this great surf dude. It looks just like a male version of Amanda. I mean, of course, this is completely made up. This is not the protocol at all. She said, and guess in September, it could be 2 for the price of 1, because she said, I think Dr. Love, which is who we called him, Dr. Love. That was not his name. It was something like Juan Antonio Valadez, but anyway, we called him Dr. Love. He said, I think we'll let you put 2 embryos in, because right from the get-go, we wanted to have twins, but we were told not because of protocol.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we were and they said, look, we're going to put 2 embryos in, but both won't take. It just gives you a higher chance of 1 taking. So don't be expecting to have twins. And here we are with 2 very... Yeah.
Are they identical twins?
No, they're not. We've got, you know, honestly, Sarah is dark. She's quarter Chinese, hence the Foo. So she's dark. She's very, very dark. And I'm blonde. And you would not believe it. We've got one little boy that's blonde with green eyes, that's tall. And we've got one little boy that's dark with his little, you know, his little eyes, just like his mum.
That's so amazing, isn't it? Yeah, life is amazing. I'm always amazed at life. I keep finding good books to feed myself with the amazingness of life.
Like, honestly, I thought I was designing my life. I thought I was.
No, you're not. Way. Life is living you.
You know, there is no way I could have designed, you know, if I look back now, back to those 9 years ago when I lost Keith, and look at my life, and you know, I have witnessed my children being born into the world. I couldn't have designed that, because how would that have ever... I wasn't going to marry. I wasn't going to marry a woman. I was, you know, my default was always a man. So the universe just went, okay, well, you're game. You've got good intentions.
You're definitely game.
Let's intervene.
I think I say to people a lot, I have 9 lives, you know, because I turn around all the time and go, oh, okay, that's what we're doing now. You know, my life just keeps taking this turn and another turn. I just never thought I would be where I am now. And every time. And yeah, life just lives you. And I think the more we appreciate this big flow of consciousness that happens through us, the more we can enjoy the ride, even though it's really chaotic and crazy and unpredictable and horrifying sometimes. Like, especially what's going on now in the world. And but to know that deep down inside everything there is this beautiful desire to only to separate and divide, because in some way we're going to find another way to organize and co-create. And then that is biology, and the DNA of every living thing is that, just dividing to recreate. It's not about selfishness, it's not about destruction, it's so much more incredible.
And I think the more that you trust, and the more that you lean into that, the more of the magic you get to see. And you know, I think we are just scratching the surface. Certainly I am just scratching the surface with it.
Yeah, me too.
It's a massive adventure.
Do you know Iain McGilchrist is his name?
No.
He's a psychiatrist, neuroscientist, and he's also into philosophy. And he's written some amazing books, and you can find quite a few of his interviews and talks online. He is really eloquent in explaining this beauty of life and why we are in the situation we are as humans at this moment. And he's talking about the two hemispheres and how the left hemisphere, which is the controlling, manipulating, but also very focused and concentrating, the one that makes the productivity that we have possible, but it doesn't have the social, emotional, intuitive, creative aspects that sees the context of everything and has compassion and understands consciousness. And that's what we're missing. And we've gone so deep into that left brain hemisphere. And that's kind of what's making it so hard for some people to live, like why people are struggling so much.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much focus on that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think,
even religion and spirituality has become a thing of saying the word God has become hearsay. Science has become dogmatic. It has become the religion. And then it's only that materialistic kind of science, which is reductionistic and sees us as a thing and allows this extraction process that we're seeing happening to a very large
yeah,
degree. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
should check him out for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I'll put it in the notes. Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
and and I think, yeah, if we could all just have open conversations about that and look at it properly, then we can undo the cause rather than work with all the symptoms that we're working with. Because sometimes I feel I'm just working with symptoms, when people come to see me, and
yeah,
and if you get to the point, like let's touch on this part. And sometimes with most clients, I have conversations about this. And then it relieves them so much because they think there's something wrong with them. But they're actually, the symptoms they're having are just a reflection of what's wrong with our society. And it's playing out
yeah,
through their body, their mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I've written a book called Knowing You, which is actually allowing the reader to really understand what we're talking about, their genius, the very core of who they are. And in the book, one of the chapters is it's not your fault.
Mm.
Not your fault. So it's interesting that you talk about that with your clients, and I felt it needed a whole chapter on its own,
Okay.
as to where has this come from, and just breathe a sigh of relief, because this is not. I know it feels as though it is, but it's not you.
Yeah.
It really is. However, you have a choice now. You have a choice to do something about it or not.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting point, because people just can breathe a sigh of relief and feel a weight lift from them, and therefore that in of itself, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of people try to blame themselves, because when you blame yourself unconsciously, it's turning the power back to you, because then you can do something about it. But they're still
Yeah,
trying to do something about it in the wrong kind of way, in this manipulative left brain kind of manner, rather than
yeah,
the contextual manner of accepting the struggle. I think struggle is so underestimated and unwelcome. But it's when we struggle, like all your struggles, you've just told us all your struggles in your life, but that's also when you grow, it's that seed breaking through the shell to become the plant. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think I had a massive aha, because I've gone through this experience, and here we are in New Zealand. Sarah's pregnant with the twins. We were flying back to Portugal to have the twins here. And I just get a phone call from my sister to say, hey, look, I wondered if you could come back to Europe a little bit earlier. Dad's in hospital, nothing life-threatening, but it would help me out, because, taking mum to the hospital back and forth. And I looked at it, and we planned to go back to Europe together a little bit earlier. But then I went for a run around the lake, and I got this overwhelming feeling that I needed to get on a plane as quickly as possible. It did not make sense, did not make logical sense, did not make, as you say, the left brain, the
Yeah, you're
logistics,
trying to understand it.
and my unconscious was literally saying to me, you have to go, you have to get on a plane. So imagine, I followed it, I went with it because it was so overwhelming. I left Sarah in New Zealand to fly back on her own. Wow. Because there was too much to organise. I cancelled a speaking gig in Brisbane to 350 women, and I literally got on a plane that night and I flew to Gatwick. I landed in Gatwick Airport, went straight from the airport to the hospital, and my dad died 24 hours later.
Oh, wow.
If I hadn't have listened to that, I would have missed it. And, you know, but I don't think I would have been as attuned without the roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. The more you have hard experiences and you have these voices inside you. I had something similar with nothing as profound as this, but it was the same. Me and my boyfriend, we had a truck in Mexico. We were trying to sell it, and it was really important because we had little money at this time. I was 20 or something. And so I didn't listen to this intuition. I had this insight, like the car's going to crash and we're not going to be able to sell the car. And I told my boyfriend, like, I just had this flash, and he was like, no, it'll be fine. And it happened. It was just a scratch on the back. But the guy who ran into us was a taxi driver, and he just wanted to get money out of these tourists who were in Mexico. And so he didn't let us go. And we ended up not meeting that man who was going to buy the truck from us. And we didn't have his phone number, and we lost that whole opportunity, and just everything went downward. And because I was young and still hadn't had enough life experiences, I didn't know if that was just a thought or intuition, because it's very different. Just having these thoughts, because your mind can have so many thoughts, it can go in any direction. But an intuition is so much deeper. Like there's this feeling, and usually there's some imagery. It's really clear, really loud.
Yeah. And it was, you know, it give Sarah a due, because I came back and said, I've just got this overwhelming feeling I need to get on a plane. She said, okay, well then you do.
Wow. Yeah.
Listen to it.
Wow.
You know, I'll pack the house down. I'll fly supervised, so I don't have to carry bags. Well, as it turned out, she never got to Portugal because blood pressure went up, and I had to. So the babies were born, but the babies were born in New Zealand, so they're Kiwi, so they've got Kiwi passports. I mean, what's not to look about that?
So you get into New Zealand much easier, or what? Yeah.
Well, they can live there if they want. When they're old enough, if they want to go and live in New Zealand, they can.
Wow.
We're residents. Sarah and I are residents of New Zealand. But for those boys, and even simple things like in Portugal, I would have had to legally adopt them, because in Portugal, they don't acknowledge, they do acknowledge same-sex marriages, but they haven't caught up on what happens when those couples have babies. Whereas in New Zealand, on the birth certificate, it's parent one, parent two, totally open about. So they were my sons as soon as they were born, in the eyes of in New Zealand. So we didn't know that, but that was the universe again, you know, coming into play.
Yeah. So wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Is there something you want to share with listeners? Maybe a little practice, or for the last?
Yeah, I think that's something that I've used, and in fact, I've done a TED talk about it, and it's nearly had 2 million views actually.
Oh, wow.
2 million views and 1,000 comments, and the comments
so
positive. So I feel I want to share that, because I think your listeners really like it, and it's something that I having when I was diagnosed with cancer. I found that, as I mentioned earlier, there's a few labels that come with that, you know, cancer sufferer, cancer victim, cancer patient, and none of those labels served me. So I literally, without my unconscious, created this delete button. So it's a massive red button, so it almost fills the screen of your vision. And mine has delete written across it, but you know, as I've shared this, some people have something's a bit stronger on there, you know. And basically, as the person's telling you a mind virus that doesn't serve you, but you don't want to climb into a narrative with them or justify or influence, it's just not a conversation you want to climb into, you literally just hit your delete button. So And the way it works is you just imagine it lighting up 3 times, but very loud inside your head. You go delete, 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 like that, really loud. It's important you do it inside your head, not outside. Otherwise, that would be a bit weird. But it just allows. Yeah, but like, what medication are you on? And the first time I used it was in the hospital. And a lady came to me. She was just a friend. She bought me a bottle of wine and some fudge. She was a mutual acquaintance, shall we say. I played golf with her twice, I think. And she started telling me she watched this documentary where a lady gave a kidney away, but then she slumped into a deep depression because the human body can't deal with having an organ taken away from it. Now, she was just trying to be helpful. And she was telling me about the documentary. But it was not helpful to me because I didn't want my neurology to accept that, because I know how powerful our neurology is. Yeah. So this is when the big red button appeared and the delete inside my head. And then I changed the subject and I just said, oh, that's really interesting. How's your golf these days? And I literally, like in the movie Up, squirrel, I got my squirrel card out and literally just threw a distraction in her path. So if you're going to use your delete button to get them off subject, you need a distraction. There's lots of them in the world right now. It's there's lots of questions. Lots of questions. The one I used to was, do you think Meghan and Harry should have done that interview with Oprah? That's a good one. People always have an opinion on that, or COVID, or there's lots of things, right, that people can talk about. But I find the delete button is a really useful tool, and you'll probably use it. Your listeners will probably use it before they lay their head on the pillow tonight.
Okay, so several times maybe.
Yeah, several times. It's taking control of what am I allowing into my neurology and what am I not allowing, because otherwise the mind virus sets up a little neural network, and before we know it, it's now our thoughts and something that we believe to be true, when actually it's actually somebody else's, got nothing to do with us. I will share. And I think the other thing I'd like to say is that everyone is so much more than they ever think they are.
Yeah, and we all have something to give in whatever way that is. Yeah,
exactly.
We are all meaningful. We all belong. Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you so much for this, Amanda. It's really nice meeting you. I didn't know what to expect, so I'm really happy.
Wonderful to meet you too, and I feel there's more conversations that we can have. I would really like to go into how your mind works. I've really enjoyed this.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's have more talks. You can tell me all about neurolinguistics, and I can tell you all about my theories.
Yes, I love the more about your theories. I'd love to learn more about that. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. Yeah, wonderful. Have a good day.
I will do. Take good care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.